The time is now 6:31 on Monday, August 15th. Go ahead and begin our select board meeting at the Old Historic Meeting House. We will begin as per usual with the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is over here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That being said, our roll call. David Hamilton, Chair of the Select Board.
Merle O'Hara.
And Dee is unfortunately unable to be with us due to health issues. So that moves us on to our announcements. And I believe we have an announcement coming from our wonderful host site here. If they would like to come and make it.
Janice Lynn, I'm president of the Webster Historical Society. We want to welcome you here tonight. We always look forward to you coming every year. And thank you, folks, for being here. I'm sure you noticed that we have the outside of the building painted and spiffy now. And you'll notice that the exhibits have changed. They're cleaned up. There's different things. The CJ has been, and John have been working overtime to get that done, to get ready for Old Home Week. So we're glad you're here.
Thank you very much for all you guys do.
And let's see, as part of follow-up to that announcement, of course, we do have Old Home Days events that will be coming up on the 20th, this weekend on Saturday. And where's the best place for them to find more about all of the events and timings?
They limit out the pamphlet to almost every single house in town. So it tells an awful lot.
So in theory, people already know, but on the website. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's a lot of way. And then also on September 17th, there will be an open house here at this lovely building as they celebrate having finished a bunch of the work that they were trying to do to restore it. As you can see, it is now restored enough that we can come meet here again. So that is awesome, and we congratulate them on not only the ability to do it, but all the hard work that's gone into it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any further announcements?
I just want to mention I have the sign-up sheet that I appreciate being signed, but I've got you, Marty, and I've got you, Judy, because I knew you were sorry. I think everyone has signed up, but we have that. I have extra agendas if you'd like to have one. And that's really all I have.
All right. Are there any further announcements from anybody else here? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to our first agenda topic, which is the public hearing. So this should be fairly straightforward. I'm not going to bother with a bunch of rules for it like we normally would. So I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:35. This public hearing is for receiving unanticipated funds pursuant to RSA 3195B. And now let me go ahead and give you a short bit about that. Webster is set to receive approximately $61,000 from the state thanks to the budget surplus in New Hampshire and Republican-sponsored New Hampshire House Bill 1221 that apportions those surpluses back to municipalities. It will also partially reimburse us for payments towards the retirement system for our employees, saving us money there as well. This will come in as revenue, so our budget and expenditures will not change in this area, though it will affect the calculated tax rates at the end of the year. We should receive these funds from the state this month. Webster is also set to receive approximately $43,000 in bridge and road money, as well as state funding now being available for dash and body-worn police cameras, thanks to the bipartisan-sponsored New Hampshire Senate Bill 401. This money is required to be above and beyond normal road maintenance work, of which we have a prime use for it with the White Plains Bridge replacement. So, while it's unfortunate for all of us that these delays have happened on that project, it's also fortunate that the project has been delayed, so this makes it easy. Due to each expected amount being above $10,000 per RSA 3195, Webster must hold a public hearing to accept the funds as unanticipated revenue. That is this public hearing. And will accept approximately $104,000 in direct unanticipated funds from the state, in addition to the non-estimated funds I'm also mentioned. So that being said, unless someone wants to speak against us taking money from the state that they want to offer, the floor is everybody's. Yes?
I have a question, Albert Snow. Do you think that some of this money will go towards the White Plains project?
We do anticipate that some of this money will go there instead of other money, for example, the ARPA funds, which will allow us to use those funds towards other projects.
So will that project be done like within the year?
Unfortunately, the project will not be done this year. We tried to push really hard to do that, and the new engineering has been very responsive. Got it through and into DES, who made comments back and requested additional information as expected, and that's where we are in the process now. Unfortunately, in order to be fiscally responsible, before we can order the supplies, such as the concrete box color for that project, we do need full sign-off from DES, not we think we're going to sign off on it, but we want more information. So we are, at this point, still waiting on that full approval from the state, but then we can push forward with purchase orders and so on for the box culvert, and hopefully that can happen this year, and that would be the easiest use of the extra bridging program. So, not guaranteed that it's going there, but that's kind of what we hope to do as far as that's concerned. Any other questions or comments? Yes?
Dr. Work. Do we have to spend the money this year, or can it simply be assigned to, say, the roads and bridges improvements for whenever we get to the White Plains culvert?
That's actually a good question. When I read through it, looking for timelines, I didn't see one.
Okay.
But perhaps one of our administrators has seen further detail on that.
I haven't seen a timeline either. I do know the fund has to be spent for the purpose intended, but I don't believe it has to be this year.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Do you have any questions or comments on it?
Pay for extra money.
Yeah, for extra money. Yeah, that's true.
All right. Last call for public comment. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion of the meeting at 6:40. And I would move to accept the funds from HB 1221 and SB 401 as unanticipated revenue.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. There we go, the hardest public hearing ever. So that moves us on to our next one, which is appointments. That appears to be the library trustees regarding ARPA funds.
Hi,
Yes.
Nancy Pickball French. We've had to put in a new air conditioner in the library. The old one was very old and leaking down the side of the walls and onto the bookcases. Nobody fixes anything anymore. So Catherine went out and got 3 bids, and that was after people really didn't get back to her for a long time. She's been trying for this for a very long time. And out of the bids, she did Clough, Brady, Total Climate, and George's Heating and Cooling. And she went with George's Heating and Cooling. It wasn't the most expensive one, but he showed up and he talked to her, and he actually came back and installed it. So it came to a little over $8,000, which puzzles my mind for an air conditioner. But we were wondering, because I don't know, since it's been installed, if we can even ask you for ARPA funds, or not?
So typically what we've been doing is requesting that approval be done ahead of time.
That's what I thought.
Is it just an air conditioner?
Yes.
Or is it a heat pump that
No.
can also
No.
heat?
Just an air conditioner.
Because we, as part of the overall aim of ARPA, when the funds came to us, one of the things is for better air quality. So it does fit into the categories that we would be able to use it for. We would have to see where the expectations of available funds would be, because there are several projects slated to continue using the money. And we don't want to halt those as they're already in progress.
Right. It's very popular. Everyone wants the money.
Everyone wants free money.
Including me. I mean, we have, as you know, a few projects having to do with the building that really should be done. And $8,000, you might be able to find that in there.
Well, all we were really looking for was something to help us
Right.
out a little bit.
Doesn't
We're not
have to-
asking for the $8,000.
Right.
So let me back up for a second and ask a little bit about the decision-making process here. Since you have obviously an air conditioner and you're having problems with it, sure, it makes sense to replace that air conditioner.
We were told a year ago that it was going.
But what kind of guided the thought process to let's just replace it versus let's talk to the town about enhancing this so it can be more efficient for us versus tying it in with stuff that is already in the building for the rest of the building?
Well, I don't believe there's any other air conditioner in the building.
Not currently. No.
Right. And that's because you really don't need it down in the offices. And this, however, does need, I remember when we put this in, probably in 2005, and it was very uncomfortable, because we're upstairs. And
It's hot enough to need air conditioning even in the winter.
right. And let me, yeah, actually, and that was one of the problems, because we would be getting the heat from downstairs to the library. And, anyway, so we did put in the air conditioner. And, it's been 17 years. So we really needed a new air conditioner. It could not be repaired. We checked that out. And like Nancy said, this was the medium bid on it. And the bid, of course, was the best was that he did it quickly, as opposed to, somebody said, we'll get to it. So anyway, we're just asking for something to help us. We were able to pay for it, out of our trust fund. But we really appreciate something towards that. And especially, I think that it's something that obviously benefits everybody in the town, particularly now when there is no other place in town where somebody who doesn't have air conditioning and needs to be in a cooler place. That's only the library, right? So I'd like to point that out, that it is something that anybody in town who needs an air conditioner, to be there in a hot afternoon, they can come to the library.
Has the bill already been paid?
Yes.
Okay. Can you look into what we can do as far as if we can do reimbursements or partial reimbursements of that nature? Because I know most of it is like you have to show the bidding process and everything else for us doing it.
I would have to see, I would need paperwork of some sort. He's got it. but because I have reports that fill out to account for it. I'm not sure about a reimbursement. I can research that.
Yeah, so if you can look into it, let us know, and then when we sit down and talk about the full kind of financing of what the whole ARPA funding looks like, then we'll include that in it.
I was going to talk to the board at their next meeting about the ARPA funding and what is in, what possibilities there are.
Perfect. All right, so thank you very much.
Okay,
We'll
thank you.
see what if anything I can do for you directly in that regard with ARPA.
Okay.
Otherwise, this would be part of something that we would see in the budget coming from the library as well, or?
We haven't started budget yet.
Okay. So, I think is good enough for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. So, that moves us on to old business. Scheduling the personnel policy work session, which, because we expected we would have Dee back and be able to do so, I would suggest that since we put it off a couple of times, rather than putting it off again until the next meeting, Dana, can you send out an email and try to schedule a time for that work session so that when he is healthy enough, he can do it?
Okay, is best afternoon, best for you?
Usually afternoons has typically been the best for us.
Okay. So no 6 a.m.
I can be there.
If you make it 5 a.m., I might still be up.
Well, then, yeah. Hey, that works too. Usually up then.
All right,
I will do that.
thank you. So that moves us on to our other old business, which is town-owned properties, which I believe you have stuff to tell us about.
I do. As you know, we did put out requests for solicitation for bids for some properties down in the Pillsbury Lake District. As per our policy, they're offered to abutters first, with the idea that the property will be merged to the abutters property prior to the transfer. I had spoken to you last week about the amounts that were due. Some of them were much more than what we normally have, but we've had them a long time. And the policy was to take the taxes that were due when the property was taken for taxes and add in the lost revenue for the years that we weren't getting it. I had 10 properties that we had put out the bid solicitation, and I received bids on, let's see, 5 of them. So if you would like me to open the bids, or do you want to open the bids, or?
Open away.
Okay.
You have the special thing.
I did, I brought it. The first lot is lot, map 10, lot 5, sublot 120, and it is on Rumford Drive. And this is a bid. And I think, Mr. Arpino, you're here. From Michael Arpino, 115 Mutton Road, Western New Hampshire. I'll give this to you later. In response to the solicitation of sealed bids for map 10, lot 5, sublot 20 in Pillsbury Lake District, I hereby offer a bid of $2,201. And the minimum on that was $2,047. $2,201. And that was the only bid on that lot.
Well, in that case, as a appropriate bid that is the highest bidder, I would move that we accept said bid.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. That was easy.
Okay, you went faster than I can go. The next bid is on, pardon me. All right, here we go. Map 10, lot 5, sublot 121. This has a minimum bid due of $6,365. I have one bid on that from Mr. Arpino. I don't think he's moved since the other bid, so. But, in response to solicitation, the sealed bid for map 10, lot 5, sublot 121, Centennial Drive, Pillsbury Lake, I hereby offer a bid of $6,501. I don't know, Mr. Arpino, does that say 00 or 22?
Yeah, he's got chicken scratch.
I'll call it 6501.
And you said there
There's
are,
only one bid on that.
okay. So as the highest qualified bid for the property, I would move that we accept said bid.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next bid we've received is on map 10, lot 6, sublot 23, which is on Manchester Drive. I received one bid on that lot. Bidder is Richard Nadu of Hudson, Massachusetts. He owns an adjoining lot, and he's interested in purchasing the lot. He is bidding $2,269, which happens to be the minimum required bid.
And there are or are not further bids.
Not on this lot, no. This is only one.
I would move that we accept the highest qualified bid.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next one is on map 10, lot 6, sublot 39. We received one bid on that lot, and it is also from Richard Nadu of Hudson, Massachusetts. Again, he abuts that property. The minimum bid is $743, and that is his bid.
And there are no further bids.
There are none.
All right. I move that we accept this as the highest qualified bid.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last bid that we received is on map 10, lot 6, sublot 42. This is also on Manchester Drive. The minimum is $5,785. Let's see.
Someone was
Enclosed,
confident.
please find a check for $1,000 for lot 10642.37 acres, which is located on Manchester Drive next to us. I know it states a minimum bid of $5,785, but having to only pay $400 for the lot next to us, which is larger, we are having a hard time with $5,785. Per the building packet for Webster, there is a minimum of 1 acre to build in Webster. Since there is no longer an HOA here in Pillsbury, we figured any building in Pillsbury would have to fall under the rules of Webster. Page 2 of the general building packet states, a a buildable lot must be at least 5 acres unless the lot was created prior to March 7, 2007, for 2 acres, or 3/7/1975, for a 1 acre lot. That would mean no house could be built. We are hoping that you would consider the $1,000 payment for lot 10-642 located on Manchester Drive, which would be merged with our property and put back on the book for taxes. We are also willing to pay the deed preparation and recording costs separately. Again, the minimum bid was $5,785.
So what happens? Let's say it doesn't go out, it goes out.
If these, what will happen now, if you decide not to accept this
Right.
bid, the property will be offered to the general, to everybody.
And
And
we have our land use coordinator here, but please correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that Pillsbury Lake does actually have the ability to build on each of their lots because they are all
Correct,
state
because there were
existing.
prior existing non-conforming lots that were created before the zoning ordinance was adopted. And they also have their own additional setbacks requirements that are separate from those of the towns. However, to confirm that the deed is older than that, we have to, once again, do a little deep research. I'm fairly positive if it was part of the Pillsbury subdivision, it was done in the 60s. It would still qualify to be built.
Thank you.
the amount of this minimum bid was just created because you know some of the history on that?
The minimum bid on all of the lots was made up of two components. It was made up of the amount that was due the town at the date of deed, and in all the subsequent years that the town has not been getting, this is what the policy's been of the board, has been added into it. And this lot has had quite a long time, which is what has.
Yeah, the minimum bid matches the policy.
Right. I guess that was just the cost of not paying. I'm sure that wasn't necessary.
Well, I would love to have it back on the tax rolls. They did not meet the minimum bid, and if somebody else that were also a butter had intended to put something in but thought it was too high a price, that would kind of mess with them as well. So I would be inclined to
other bidders.
yes.
That's true, and all the other ones, yep.
So I would be inclined to open that to further bidding.
That's something. Do we need that?
We need a motion, we probably should make a motion. for that.
Yes, please.
I would move as, due to us not having any qualified bids, that we open this bid for further bidding as an open bid.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And is that all of them?
That is all I have. We had 10 properties that I had put out solicitations on, so 4 out of the 10 is not bad. We can get those out.
And you read them out, you know,
Yes.
right?
All right. That moves us out of old business and into new business. The first of which is listed as the Community Power Coalition Joint Powers Agreement. And so I will explain some of that. I don't see Marty here anymore. He could have also explained a bunch of that. He and I are assigned to the New Hampshire Community Power Coalition as the board members from the town. And at the annual board meeting, the Joint Powers Agreement was decided to be amended as per all of the bylaws and stuff in it to help in the process. The way that was previously listed only allowed amendments to ever happen at that annual meeting. Amendments do, however, also need to be approved by every single one of the community members that are part of it, of which we as Webster are one of them. So to sum up what the amendment was and did, as you'll see some struck out text in front of you, let's see here, trying to skim through what I have already so I don't repeat myself. In short, the amendment allows for the amendment process to happen from any meeting rather than only the annual meeting, but adds additional requirements to the timeline and notices. This allows more flexibility to adapt if the need arises, but adds more transparency via documentation and required notices. And so, do you have any questions on this?
I don't, I mean, I really don't.
Okay. So, yeah, hopefully that makes sense to anybody that's looking. We can certainly get you a full copy of the JPA, which is many, many pages, if you would like to see it. You will all be hearing more about community power in the very near future.
We'll be presenting it on Saturday.
We will be having a presentation down at Old Home Day on Saturday. You will also hear more about it and then see it as a warrant article for the town to adopt or not. Because at this point, still nothing happens other than Marty and I do a lot of work. So nothing actually changes for the town until such point as the townspeople say, yes, we want to do it. And there are conditions for that as well. But you'll hear a lot more about that in the near future. And come talk to us at Old Home Day. So, that being said, I guess not. So I would move to accept the amendments as detailed.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that moves us on to the next new business, which is the assessing letter. But that's okay, it'll change in like 30 seconds.
So this is for our assessors. They requested that the select board send a notice to a property owner who had their home had fire, maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago. And they sent the person repeated notices to say that they would like to come in and inspect to see if the repairs have been made. And there's been no responses, and now they put up a no trespassing sign. And so the assessors want to send a final notice out signed by the select board stating that we either let the assessors come in, take a look to see if it's been done, or they're just going to assume the repairs have been made and then return the value up to the full value of the property. So,
Absolutely.
and that was, they're just requesting your signature, and then we'll have a letter.
Any further on that, or is that it? That's it. All right. That moves us on to requests received from the trustees of trust funds. And also from the town treasurer. And we'll look at them at once if they're what I think they are.
The first one is from the trustees of trust funds. The trustees, as you know, due to the resignation of Therese Larson on the trustees, they have an opening. They would like to appoint Mary Welch as a member of the trustees of trust funds to fill the vacancy. And the appointment runs until the end of the term in this case, rather than to the next election. So it would be 25, I think, is what the term goes. And so they would like you to consider appointing Mary Welch as a trustee of trust funds.
And yes, please.
I would highly recommend Mary. She's a previous treasurer.
Yes.
And understands the books, etc. However, when I asked her about doing it, I did not realize about going to the finish of the term. I had indicated to her it was only March. And she hasn't told me yes or no whether she would be done in March, but in the meantime, we desperately need someone. We need to finish up the year. And she's willing to step in and do everything we need. And it will take signatures of the last trustee meeting we had, which was this past week, as well as the signatures and approved minutes from this meeting. So she won't actually be able to come on board until I get your minutes signed, which I assume are at the next meeting.
Yes.
So I'll have to wait 2 more weeks to get her on, but
So they have to be fully approved, they can't.
they have to be approved. They can't just be draft.
Okay.
So that's what I,
Which is the minutes that we're talking about.
Yeah.
so
That's a good choice.
And would the appointment help you as well?
she'll have, well, we can't do the appointment until that's signed, I don't think.
Yeah, so we
We're
go
gonna have
through
to
the
wait.
process, but you can't actually start until all of the documentation's there, is what she said.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe Michelle, I'm not sure about that, whether that can, but that's what I need for the bank in order to
Yeah,
put her
I think
on.
you should make the motion, if you're so inclined. And then if you would sign this, because the board, you can appoint
Yeah.
right now. I think what you were saying something about the bank or something.
It's the bank that requires the sign, the
Right.
signature of the board on a
That makes
completed
sense,
minutes,
yeah.
approved minutes.
All right. I saw another,
That, I was just gonna say, yes, Mary's a good choice. I would recommend her too.
I hope she'll stay till 2025. I did tell her she could resign in March if she really so chose.
Judy, you shouldn't have told her
And that would be on some application dates.
Yeah, once you're in, you're
she
in.
can always put her name on the ballot to be there longer.
Right.
You don't even have to put it on the ballot. That's all I got, a whole 3 votes out of
Yeah.
264.
All right, so I would move that we
That's
accept
scary.
Mary Welch to the trustees of trust funds as recommended.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And next one is a request from the town treasurer.
The next one is a request from the town treasurer. As the newly appointed treasurer for the town of Webster, I would like to recommend Brenda Silver to be appointed deputy treasurer to the resignation of deputy treasurer Liz John. I have known Brenda for more than 10 years. She's a very pleasant person and very diligent in her work. I highly recommend her for this position. And this is important for the treasurer to have in the event the treasurer can't serve for whatever reason.
Do we have anybody representing this?
Grace did not come, but you know Brenda, so I can ask her to come.
And she's willing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought it was a good idea to ask her.
Well, I was hoping, but you know.
Do you want to make a motion?
No, you go for it.
I would move that we accept the recommendation and appointment of Brenda Silver as the deputy treasurer.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that moves us on to signatures for the update of investment policy.
This is the policy that you have gone through fairly recently, but due to having new treasurer and new deputy treasurer, and I assumed you were going to appoint Brenda, so I put her name.
I won't show up to see
I know, I hear you. But anyway, Therese and Brenda will need to sign. This is the policy of the town's investment policy, which is required by state statute. And I also need signatures from the board. Nothing has changed in this policy since you reviewed it last time. Only the names have been changed. Yeah.
All right. And do you have any other further new business that I do not have in that front?
I don't have any.
Correspondence?
Okay, we do move on to correspondence then. So have at it.
So we received a request for a temporary occupancy permit for somebody who wants to live in camper while they have weather building. We also received parts of the building permit. This is an ongoing issue that we're having the planning board do a driveway permit, which I think is what's primarily holding up the process. And we do have, I've checked off what we do have, so we do have the copy of the septic. I don't have any building or house plans as of yet. And we got the PUC approvals, obviously, so we don't have house plans yet. Yeah.
Craig, 20 minutes. Can you identify the people?
Should we be doing it? Well, I guess we're gonna ask them to go ahead and make their case since it's correspondence, so.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's up to
normally I would say, why don't you come on up, but we don't really have a spot for that. So,
Good.
why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Ben developer at 298 Down Street. Come into a situation where we're trying to move out back. This property was running to a roadblock for DOT or whatever. The new location meets the requirements, and we're just not getting any responses, feedback from the DOT on the location. I've tried an engineer, I hired an engineer, they tried. Russell's tried, the town gave responses, we got no response. So we're just kind of stuck and we can get any replies. And that's really the key to do the whole process. We got that.
Okay. So, knowing this, one of the things to clarify, because anybody looking may have the question, problem here is that there is no approved driveway permit for whom to be able to begin building. Normally, these are things that the planning board would be looking at as far as setting up driveway permits. However, it is on a state road, being 127 at Battle Street. So the town's driveway permit, correct me if I'm wrong, please, requires that there be a approved permit from the state before we grant it.
Right,
Which-
before we grant a final approval.
And so there is no driveway, which means there's no address, but there are approved septic plans, or is it just submitted septic?
So we have locally approved septic plans. I think I received the state approved ones late last week. I would have to double check my email on that, but I think I have seen.
Okay. So we have state and local approved septic plans then, which means they're expecting that the house is going to go there, even though they haven't approved a driveway.
Well, I'm very
Different departments.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Oh, he does have, we did give him a construction. The 2-year, right?
Yes, we granted
Yeah.
2-year construction permit.
Yes.
Great construction.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you and Mr. Bello speak because you're a representative to the planning board. So
I was just pointing that out, I mean, what you're looking for is to be able to have a camper out there while you build. And the only thing that messes us up is the fact that we weren't able to issue them a driveway permit because we didn't have the permit from the state.
correct. Everything else is lined up.
Right.
It's just, we applied for that November 17th.
And in our rules read, somebody help me with this, that they can have a camper there for a certain amount of time while they're building, correct?
So the rules are right there, the actual, it's highlighted as part of the
Okay.
ordinance. So you would have that.
So 15 days does not require any sort of permit. Beyond 15 days does. Our kind of historical precedent has been to only grant them when it's, for example, somebody visiting at an existing residence, or if it is somebody that is actively building. This kind of, but not really falls under that second portion because he's trying to, but he can't. Well, I'll just ask a couple questions and hopefully this will help in some way, at least for clarity. So is this a RV, a mobile home, a small camper trailer, what is it?
It's a fifth wheel camper.
Sorry?
It's a fifth wheel camper.
Okay. And unfortunately, we are near the end of the summer, and so if the state takes, a little bit longer and we still can't build, that means it's coming into the winter. Typically, fifth wheels and RVs are not very good places to be in the winter. Is that something that you've considered and are able to handle?
Yeah, I'm also, that's a four-season camper. It's winter capable.
Do you have an existing address of residence that you will be able to continue using since they will not be providing a street address until such times as they approve the driveway permit?
Well, the house is for sale, so it sells, rely on my property that I have. That's it.
Okay. Yes.
If you agree to the camper, is there some time?
The general time limit is 90 days, though it can be extended for extenuating circumstances. But generally, it is supposed to be limited at 90 days. Sorry?
Is there town regulations?
Let's see.
That is, it's directly from the ordinance.
Yeah, it's from the ordinance. Such permits shall normally be for a maximum of 90 consecutive days in any calendar year. If the select board may exceed that limit if they consider there to be extenuating circumstances. As you commented a little bit, Craig, as the chair of the planning board, what has been, I know you're not building permits, but obviously you've been involved with this and have a much larger history than I do of driveway permit and or septic permit. What is coming, what do you think as?
This is a situation that Mr. Develop did not create. It's a state. He's caught in the middle, we're caught in the middle. We have sent a letter, Russ sent a letter, signed by the board and signed by us, asking the state for action. I don't feel it's going to get action on
I'm sorry, we can't hear anything that you're saying.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure the recording's not picking it up either.
Anyway, I would be in favor of Mr. Develop's camper thing. Personally, I mean, I can't speak for the thing. I would be in favor. You may think some kind of permit, perhaps longer than 90 days.
Yeah, I would suggest that if we were to grant a permit, it would not be 90 days because that would be the middle of the winter, which just wouldn't make sense as a time to have it in and get kicked out.
Just to clarify what he was saying, it's the circumstances that he's up against right now is the fact the state's not getting back to them, which then creates us to be caught in the middle. And, I'm the type too that looks at it as, it's his property, he's trying to build a house and, getting things scheduled and people out there is not probably gonna be all that much fun either. And then the fact, he's got the expense of getting his driveway out there. And his house could sell, hopefully in a market that's gonna thrust him into putting up the building, but. I supported the fact of giving them the 2 years on the driveway, because I still look at it as the fact that, they said they did meet with you and said that you did get the approval to where to put it, but you just didn't get it in writing, correct?
Nothing really.
Yeah.
They came and did a site visit, very difficult, just nice to say arrogant. You give the Russells a hard time back, they like, oh, it's the same person. Came back from, close the entrance to the barn, which was all gone. And then he was like, oh yeah, I did that. So he was just full of arrogance. Just me agreeing to the location on top where it is. But hanging in, just right, or renovation, or tree down, or framing. You wait. So I don't know, yeah. I love that some of the surveyors.
So another concern with something like this would of course be without address, 911 and emergency type response. Obviously, we do have in-town emergency services. Chief, could you make some sort of comment towards that?
I'm sure we're gonna know where the house is. We're gonna see the building in progress. And he's probably, he comes to us and puts out a house check so that we can make sure nothing's missing, and we'll know where the house is. Even if it doesn't have like, in the street, and the address. And it's right close to the house, right?
Yes.
Right behind you.
Yes.
And he's gonna use his old address, I heard you say.
Well, they're only living in the lands until we resolve a new piece of land.
There's not a lot.
98.
There's an awful lot of other houses in town that don't have numbers on their houses, and we still find them, so I'm sure we'll find it.
So we've got plans, we've got permits, we just don't have an approval from the state. If you mentioned that you're in the process of selling the pre-existing residence. Assuming that sells, and that at some point in time, hopefully this year, but maybe not, let's assume that sometime before the winter is over, that the state actually approves the driveway. If that happens, roughly how long until you would have a house constructed and would no longer need this temporary occupancy?
I hope to begin construction this spring, summer. About 23. Once everything's due, spring's over, start construction now. Let's say by winter. Ready. Any of that.
Yes.
Generally take longer than he expects, we expect, so, things can hold up. There's kind of glitches in it, so rather than cut it too short.
Yeah, I don't want to make it so that we're guaranteeing that you would have to come back to get it again, but it is renewable and or I shouldn't say renewable, but you can come back and get another one to continue it. So I don't want to just make it super long so that we don't have to see him again. Because no offense, I hope we don't have to see him again because we get a house. Yes, Russ?
I did talk to the former land use coordinator to ask how these were handled in the past, and typically they were granted for the 90 days, and then we have to renew in the 90 days, which is not what happened, so every 90 days we get it.
Okay, so let me talk about the quick. We are in August, so 90 days is roughly 3 months, so September, October, November. And then the next 90 days would probably be another, so December, January, February. And in March, April, May. So you people are gonna have at least 2 renewals, probably before construction even starts.
At least,
Yeah,
I mean, because you're not
so,
gonna go in the winter if you can help it.
No, I would break ground that season.
so while I would,
Or spring.
while I do like the idea of keeping them limited so that they're not longer than they need to be, I don't see how it would be possible to, like, if we approve this, it would not make sense to not approve them coming back, and you would have to be coming back, because there wouldn't be anything until that point.
The
Yes.
statute allows the select board to set someone.
Yes, or at least that's my reading of this. Yeah, the select board may exceed that limit if they consider there to be extenuating circumstances. Which, there's definitely extenuating
Yeah, I mean,
circumstances in the state,
That's right.
so.
And I look at it as, if we extended it to, hopefully, springtime, and then you come back, and then that gives us an update too, to what you got going on. So say in April, May, however long that is, you say we'd like you to come back and just give us an update on, yes, I got construction set up, I got, the house sold, those types of situations. And maybe the state will have had come out of the woodwork, and we can then, he'll have an approved driveway with an approved address.
So if we did double the length of 180, that would be coming back February, which is middle of winter. And, but in theory, hopefully, if you were to be able to break ground shortly after that, when the thaws happen, you would need to have something approved by then, in order to line people up to do the work.
Meaning like a building permit.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would be one option, would be the 180. I think that might be a little short.
Me too, I would say
Um,
180 plus 90 is one.
that would put us March, April, May,
To me, that makes more sense.
which at that point I would expect that there would be a definite construction date to renew at that point. So that sounds somewhat reasonable to me. I guess, are there any further comments? Because this is the whole town. We are trying to help people out and do things as best we can. So,
I would just ask,
yes.
Albert, I would just ask, what if for some reason the town, the state didn't provide them? Then
Planning board does have the ability to require
I'll let Russ or Craig comment on that.
I mean, the good news is, it's a fifth wheel, it's not like he's building a house without a building permit, you know what I mean? So it's removable at that point, if something.
Hell, I could drive it off for 14 and a half days.
Well, right, and which is,
Not for.
that's right, well, which is true, you know what I mean? So,
And it's not visible from the road.
right. That was a good question.
Another hand? Yes.
Just trying to understand the whole situation, sort of like a chicken and egg question, which came first, the driveway permit of the house. I mean, how can he put a fifth wheel in there without a driveway permit? How's he get it in there without a driveway permit? It's not supposed to be accessing.
So
And what if there's an accident, it's a state road, he's got no access, and now he's caused an incident, there's a big liability. And if the town told him, go ahead and do it, is the town liable?
So I'll go ahead and let Craig actually wants to respond.
Well, the planning board granted him a temporary construction permit, which is typically granted for like construction projects or lobbying operations. And that's good for 2 years. Okay, so he has a driveway there, and he has a 2-year temporary construction.
You can consider it kind of like 2-year temporary driveway.
So like a lot of.
Yeah, just like a lot. So you want to make a motion for how long you think it should be?
Yeah.
You're the planning board person, so.
So, 390, what is that, 188, 270?
270.
Yeah, maybe 270 days, and then comes back to see us, to get it renewed if needed, which it sounds like it will be, but also with an update, hopefully, the state will come, done what they need to do, and we maybe have slotted a building permit, so, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got the start of the building permit, we've got septic, we've got driveway. Yeah, he's basically just looking.
Right, got the
to
investment is subdividing it, yeah.
So all of this and the extenuating circumstances are that the state's just not responding.
Right.
So,
So,
go ahead.
yeah, make a motion to accept, to allow him to be there for 270 days, but then to refile for additional permitting if needed.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry that you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
It's one thing if, we or a person causes problems, then we can deal with it or have to deal with it. It's another entirely when the state's just not responding. So.
There should be something for you to sign.
No talking on.
Oh, here we go.
Signature line.
This one.
Oh, no, I just have the date approved, just recommendation.
Here's the official guide for it. All right.
Do you need this too?
Do we have any further correspondence?
Yes. I've gotten 2 letters from the DOT. The first letter came talking about our expected highway grant, which for fiscal year 23, this is the state fiscal year that runs from July to at $72,765.45. So we'll use that for budgeting purposes. And then I have received today a letter talking about the additional funds from the highway grant, which you just talked about in your public hearings for 61,166.02. I'm glad that you approved it because it hit the bank Friday. Anyway.
The wonders of the state.
So that's just FYI. Also, I received a letter from the Environmental Services regarding the White Plains Bridge project. The engineer has also received this letter and is addressing the questions that were asked. And finally, Health Trust's annual meeting is December 1st, and the board is always welcome to go there. Last year, you asked me to go for you, and you appointed me to vote on behalf of the town. So, but I wouldn't mind if you wanted to go.
Would you like to go?
Yeah. Okay.
So, if you want to make a motion to send me, which I have a feeling that will happen.
I make the motion to send me. No, just kidding.
You'd be great.
No, I was thinking that you said make a motion to send me. To send you.
I would move that we appoint and send Dana as our representative to Health Trust and their board meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did we have any, am I mixing things up? Did we have anything from Primex or was that last time?
That was last month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will mention that I got something that I'm not sure if it's legitimate or not, so I haven't touched it. But it seems like it should go through you, even if they sent it to me. And that is supposedly a FEMA draft database for Merrimack County, looking for the town's input and feedback. There's several set of things and a discussion there from CDM Smith, who is doing this on behalf of Mary Cox at the FEMA organization. And this is regarding the risk map and a 30-day submission notification for Merrimack County. So if you have appropriate contacts, please contact them and ask.
Would you send that to me? I don't recall seeing.
So
I'm not quite sure exactly what
I will try to cut up the various details to send it to you and that you can respond to, because they include things that are supposedly individual and unique, and will then say that it is unique comment day. So
you don't want to know anything I shouldn't.
clearly the public FEMA information we shouldn't know. But it was a funny way of suggesting that it was there, and then I go get it and sign in to get it and download it, so I didn't want to just.
We've had a lot of conversation on the flood zone mapping, and I don't know if it's related
Most likely it
or
is.
not, so I managed
So,
it. Probably it is.
But that is supposedly Mary Cox over at FEMA. Okay. So if you have that contact with FEMA already, please request information from her that you can respond to.
Okay.
Is there any further correspondence?
No.
All right. That brings us to generic public comment. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Yes.
Well, maybe this is the way it's done, but could you give a brief synopsis of what this community power coalition is?
Certainly. You'll be able to find out lots more information if you come visit us at Old Home Day. We'll give out as much information as you could possibly want while we're there. The short version of Community Power is that Webster has joined the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, which is, I'll probably get the number wrong, but I believe right now it's somewhere around 19 municipalities plus a county. And
I think we're up to, it was 22, and I think it was 24.
I thought that was including the county, but yes, somewhere around
anyway.
20-ish municipalities in the county. And the short version and goal of Community Power is to pool the resources and buying power of all of these municipalities in order to effect a better purchase price for the electricity that serves all of the residents. The way that we have all of this set up, it does need to get approved as community power by the town with the town meeting and vote. And the way that it is written, we will not launch or be able to offer any services until we beat the current existing utility default rates. So it is a guarantee that either it won't happen or it will be better rates than the utility source.
If I heard you correctly, that you have to have agreement on all the towns.
To amend the JPA, yes.
Like, why do we do these agreements and they have to be all agreed on? My thought is that we've got 22 towns there. All it takes is one town.
So that is the way that the there's kind of two separate parts. There's the how power is like run. There's so the easiest way to describe it is the JPA, which we had to all agree to amend, is how you change the structure or change the overall of the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. Within that, each town, in this case Webster, we would have Webster Community Power that uses them as a service. And so we can affect things within that, like the kinds of power or the sorts of things that we want to tie into or not for the services that they might provide beyond power in the future. However, anything that's in there for affecting Webster residents in that manner, it has nothing to do with the other communities. So we're not limited to dropping a rate because another community doesn't want to, for example. And again, further details at Old Home Day, and you'll start seeing articles show up in the Grapevine and elsewhere as well. Thank you. Any other further questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, that moves us on to our motions and approvals. The first of which is our draft meeting minutes from the last meeting. Try to find them here. Let me just ask, have you had a chance to review that?
Yes.
Any comments, questions, or changes that you would like to make? All right. There. And this is why I'm trying to find if there was, I believe, a typographical thing.
Which I don't know.
Policy. I apologize while I scroll through my massive stuff. There we go. Minutes. While I quickly try to find that one more time, why don't we move on to the signing of documents?
The other thing that I had, before the signing of documents, I had no documents to be signed that we have to know. But I have bills that need to be paid by the trustees of trust funds. Having heard that it would be 2 weeks before Mary is able to write a check.
No, we'll do it tomorrow.
Oh, you
I can do it.
You can do it?
I'm going to do it. They're waiting for me.
Okay. All right.
You're wanted.
No, you want.
I need a lot of money to do this.
Yes.
Okay, so, wait.
So they will get paid tomorrow.
Perfect.
I'll
Thank
call
you.
them.
All right.
Okay, you can read them out.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, yes.
They're all to the same
Yeah.
person.
And the usual sets. So I move to request the trustee of the trust fund issue a check in the amount of $18,735 payable to Fleece and Flower Farm LLC for invoices 6866, 6867, 6869, 6870, and 6871. Total to come from the Highway and Road Construction Fund for work on Deer Meadow Road.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's part of the total comes from that one.
And, oh, right, because you've got them a little bit,
I've done it a little differently because they're all the
Yes.
same payee, but it's involving two trusts. Two capital reserve.
let's see, what's the appropriate word? I move to reconsider the previous motion to amend the total amount to to $11,575.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Then I would move to request the trustees of the trust funds issue a check in the amount of $7,160, the remaining amount, payable to Police and Flower Farm LLC for invoices 6872, 6873, and 6874. The total to come from the Road Preservation and Sustainable Trust Fund for work on Bushman Bridge Road and Cornwall Road.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I would have left things in, but they're two different funds. So
I know, I probably should have separated them out, but I wanted to make this confusing as possible.
All right. I am not quickly seeing what that type is.
Spell my name out.
I'm not seeing it. It was just a typographical, like or something of that nature. So I'm not going to worry about it. I move that we accept the meeting minutes as written.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. That, do you have anything further for us?
No, I don't.
All right. And I believe the chief mentioned that he had something for us. And what does that fall under? Is that a comment at this time, or is that requested non-public? Yes.
RSA 9182A.
For personnel? Yes. Okay. So at this time, I will move that without any further comment, I'll ask for further comment first. All right, without seeing any further comment, I would move that we enter into non-public session at 7:48 under personnel.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we, of course, will immediately adjourn following that. So thank you, everybody, for coming. And we're seeing the video later after it's put up. There won't be more after this.
See you later.